At Vibra Finance, we seek out the hidden gems in cryptocurrency. We will tailor your portfolio to work for you. Are you ready to transition your investments from traditional markets to cryptocurrency? Are your coins staked and earning interest? Are you overwhelmed with all the jargon in crypto? Is your portfolio underperforming and you want to reposition into consistent winning blue chip coins and viable projects? Do you feel like you missed out on DeFi, Metaverse, and NFTs? Here at Vibra Finance, we provide you with the data, skills, and tools you need to stay on top of the digital asset market. Vibra Finance. We are the future of crypto.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Vibraville. Hey, man, what a crazy week it's been on the Pulsechain. Everything Maria, Atropa tagging, teddy bears dumping. Not good. The whole PDI dilemma. It seems like it's Sami versus everyone else at this point. And I was still believing I wanted this thing to peg. I saw how big of a narrative this could be. I know how big stablecoins are going to be, how big they're about to get with corporate stablecoins when they launch here after regulations come out. So having like a decentralized stablecoin would have been such a big narrative for Pulsechain, but I'm sure Richard has something in mind. If that was truly something he thought could have taken over, I know he would have done it. So I'm sure we'll hear a reason or maybe not. But what he's got coming, I don't fade him. I believe in him, and we got no expectations. So if he walks away and quits tomorrow, you know what? That's a risk we all took. And I don't think a lot of people can stomach that. So today we're going to not talk about much of the PDI stuff, the dilemma. Is it Richard? Is it not? Did we get scammed? We're going to talk about two of the GOAT coins on Pulsechain, PTGC and UFO, projects that I've been into pretty much day one into UFO, and then PTGC at like a 40 or 50K market cap when it was the golf course coin. So they've been performing pretty much better than everything else on chain. The stats are there. You can't lie about them. And our guest, the Prairie Banana and the TheGray369. What's up, fellas? Appreciate you guys coming back.
Good morning, Adam. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Gray's currencies.
What's up, Vibra? Thank you for having us. Crazy week.
I know. Well, we got it. The one good thing, though, I hope comes out of this is I was hearing Famous and B Roots talking and just saying, you know what? How can we all come together now instead of like Tang Gang being secluded and everyone arguing? Like, what can we do to like start to come together? So I hope that is what comes out of this at the end of the day. But you know, it's crypto, so who knows?
Yeah, well, I look at Pulsechain like it's a family, right? And, you know, families fight. So you have your brother fighting with your sister, fighting with your uncle, your dad's fighting with the stepmom. But usually when there's a emergency or some kind of crazy thing that happens within the family, something that's bad, the family comes together, right? The family is actually strong, and they usually put their differences aside and they actually work together to get through hardships within the family. And I personally see the Pulsechain community acting in that way right now, which makes me super like just bullish on Pulsechain as a whole, because it's more than just like a crypto community at this point. It is a family. You know, we have all our differences and all our opinions and all our different subgroups, but when there is serious issues that happen, we all tend to come together and work through the issues together as a whole.
Definitely, bro. And I agree, man. And we are a family, and we're like, I staked for 15 years back in 2020, and I made more 15-year stakes. I even did one in the fall last year. So I'm going to be here till 2039. And I feel like a lot of other people will too. So, you know, this is the perfect time for us to like come together, and like this being a wake-up call. Like, do you want to let Pulsechain die after all this and all the hope and, you know, the dreams? and then to just like quit and walk away. No, we got to come together. There's too much good stuff happening, too many good people here.
Yeah, there's the
definitely.
raised currencies, here to save the day. We're like the shining city on the hill, the golden goose of crypto,
Yeah, bro, 100%. And I mean, we've had some dips right now. I think the whole PDI has been affecting a lot of the different coins here because Hart's Law, a lot of stuff was bonded together. And that is one thing that sucks for everybody. People that are like hoping for the death of PDI. It's like, no, we do not want that. It's going to bring everything else down. And you're just seeing it like across the board. Just so much is bleeding right now. And I want to say this is a big reason why. And people also are probably a little bit nervous, so they could be leaving. But I mean, yeah, it's everything right now. So when one bad thing happens, it affects everyone. So this is a wake up call that like we should be more of a family and come together, because we individually we can't overcome something like this ever again.
Yeah, we're definitely stronger together as a community, and I think that shows, right? Like that's pretty basic ideology where if you put a bunch of things together, they become stronger, but divided up, singular, they're actually very weak. So by our community actually putting some of the differences aside and taking some of these issues, right, on just head on and trying to solve them so we can get this stuff behind us and just move on with this amazing chain that we have. I do agree with you. Like, PDI got so big that now that it's being exploited, it is affecting the whole chain. It was pretty much one of the biggest narratives on chain for a long time. And due to it getting so big, it is hurting the chain altogether, in my opinion. But we are working through that. And a lot of people are stepping up and removing their liquidity with PDI, etc., to help separate the chain from this PDI situation. And I know a lot of people are still like not convinced on the situation as is, but how I look at it is we have new information on it, right? What was a mystery has now become more clear, and we all need to make decisions based on the clarity that we've gotten in the last week from RH, right? Like the narrative of him being behind it. Some people think that narrative's still true, but I definitely do think that the fact that he's coming out and publicly tweeting that he has nothing to do with it, that we need to stay away from it, holds a lot of weight, right? And for the PTGC and UFO ecosystem, how we took this information is we need to de-risk. So we've started de-risking our whole entire portfolio from that whole situation to the max we had. It was at one point one of our largest LP pools, or if not our largest LP pools. And now both of them, both PTGC and UFO, it only makes up 2% of our total liquidity, which is ultimately nothing.
That's awesome, bro. Because that's one thing that I know I am feeling for a couple projects that were heavily bonded to PDI and Teddy Bear and Atropa. Even Wrap Bitcoin's getting crushed right now. And I really thought it was him, bro. So early, I think more stuff is going to keep coming out, but I think early on people were lied to and deceived. Some of the influencers in the space that started kind of going down the rabbit holes. I think there was some people that were lied to early on, so that way they would kind of turn their heads a different way and start focusing on a different path. And it's such a perfect narrative because of the stable coins we have, USDC and Tether and RLUSD. Like they can shut your keys down. Like that's a CBDC. That's programmable money, in my opinion. So to have a decentralized stable coin, it just, everything was right there. It fits our chain. It fit everything. And now for that not to happen, I have to admit it now and just face reality that it's not Richard Hart. I said on stream, if Richard comes out and says it's not me, then we'll know. And he did it. And for me to now say, oh, well, he came out and said it, but there's a question mark in there. Like that's called copium right there in all capitals right there. And it sucks, but moving into Remember, is one thing I've been recommending for people because it's paying back so much, almost 1% a day. So to kind of get people earning yield real quick and feeling like, okay, I'm kind of stopping the bleeding. I know that's been helping, but it's why for me, just being diversified, even off into other stuff off of Pulsechain, because it's the same type thing. Wherever it goes bad for one thing and they're all liquidity bonded, you're going to see that ripple effect, and it sucks. But thank God we have awesome projects here and good people, and we're going to come get through this. And hearing that only 2% of the liquidity was bonded to that, we should be marketing and shilling the hell out of that on social media. Say, look, PTGC is not going to suffer like the whole Tropa ecosystem and everything bonded to it. Our liquidity is all, everywhere else.
Yeah, that's a big thing we've spent the last, I would say, whole entire year on, is really building up the liquidity with the RH tickers to make it to where those had more weight over the system than some of these more speculative alt tokens like PDI, for an example. It's funny because at one point the PDI liquidity became decently sized, not necessarily because we were adding to it. It's because PDI was the only thing going up on chain, right? The PLS, PLSX, Inc., none of those assets were necessarily moving up, but PDI was moving up so rapidly that liquidity pool was growing and growing and growing, which it had more weight over the system. But now that there's more clarity, we actually have taken it a step further. Not only did it go down from the price reducing, but we even had a community discussion about people pooling their liquidity with UFO and PDI, and like 95% of that already got removed from our community, which is a huge step for our community to step up for the entire Pulsechain community and remove that outlet of liquidity for PDI. And also we removed all the liquidity that we could with PTGC as well. So now the share that they have over our liquidity web is like 2%. And if it keeps going down, it's going to keep shrinking and shrinking to where it has ultimately no effect over our system. And the best thing about that is we have spent the last year building up the RH tickers for those systems to have the most weight over our system. And they're going to continue to grow as time goes on, making those, the main form of the liquidity web. But you kind of made this point, right? You said like it's important to kind of have diversification because, sometimes a lot of people put a lot of their portfolio in the PDI, which was very, very speculative, right? To where they weren't really diversified, to where this actually really hurt them, this whole scenario. The nice thing about PTGC and UFO, due to it having a liquidity web with all of the tokens on chain, it's actually giving the user a diversification portfolio by only holding one, right? And this is really common in real finance. You hold one, by holding one, you hold all, right? Like S&P 500, etc. Well, PTGC and UFO work off of that same idea, is due to us being so heavily bonded with 10 different assets, the blue chips of the chain, by a user holding PTGC and UFO, they're not too much into a single project. They actually have a diversification in their portfolio with Pulsex, Pulse, Inc., Hex, eHex. There's some there's some Pump, which are the tokens that came out of Pump Tires that RH was part of. So it's actually very unique that we have a decentralized way where the value is actually put to work, where users are able to diversify by just holding one.
Yep. Yeah. And even, like I am a huge believer. I love PTGC and UFO. Like they are the biggest bags in my Pulsechain portfolio right now. PDI was up there, and I sold 500,000 of them in January. In mid-January, I was talking to some friends, and they were like, bro, I would de-risk from it, put it into PTGC and UFO, and just, front run the inevitable move if it does go to $1. And I did that, and I put like almost $10,000 into PTGC and UFO. And right now, guess what? All of that money is now down on paper. Like all that 10 grand is gone. Like my bags drop down 80%, but I don't care that I'm still doing the right thing. That's what the pain you're supposed to feel in crypto. If you want to get however many hundreds of thousands of X's that PTGC did, you have to 70% dip along the way. Like it's only temporary. But so, even making the right move, I sold PDI, and I should have probably put some into actual DAI and left stable coins, but I put it into PTGC and UFO. I've earned more of both since, but I'm down in US dollars. So it still sucks. It's still an L on paper, but it's an actual win for the long term. And it's hard to stomach that, doing the right thing and feeling like shit and being down money. But that's crypto, and you got to be able to accept that and move on, and don't make emotional decisions or dumb things. Don't do dumb things after, feeling like this, or, oh my God, I'm down so much, and you feel like you chased. It's just not good.
Yeah, I guess we could bring up a few positive things about PTGC and UFO coming back down to these levels, since definitely on paper it hurts a little bit, right? You see your portfolio here, and there's a huge retracement, not only just on PTGC and UFO, but on Pulsechain in general, on the markets in general, which everything's connected, so they kind of all get dragged down together. But the nice thing about the PTGC and UFO ecosystem is it actually utilizes these cheaper tokens in a different way, especially because volume and volatility on chain has been decent the last couple days in a negative way, right? It's because of uncertainty and people not knowing what to do with their funds. So they're kind of moving here, moving there. But what the PTGC and UFO ecosystem does is it takes this uncertainty and this volume and volatility of the chain and turns it into revenue for the protocol, which then turns it into revenue for holders like you, is in forms of APY, in forms of buy and burns, in forms of LP ads. Because when the prices are low, you are actually earning more tokens, right? So you are getting higher quantities of PTGC dripping into your wallet because they're cheaper priced. So if the volume stays somewhat relevant, even though the whole blockchain has gone to very, very low levels, you're getting actually higher quantity of tokens. And as long as you're not selling those tokens right now, you're compounding. When the prices go back up to where they were, let's say Pulsechain just moves up back to sack rate, well, then we would be sitting at all-time highs necessarily. And the tokens that you're earning today would have multiplied also. So when there are discounts within the PTGC and UFO ecosystem, the machine is actually running at higher levels if the volume actually stays somewhat relevant, which it has been, because we're buying and burning higher quantities of tokens at this level. We are paying higher quantities of tokens as APY at this level. We're able to add LP with PLS at this level. Like just yesterday, since our DAO's been accumulating so much PLS due to PLS being so cheap and volume being decent, we were able to add $54,000 with PLSX and then burn that LP. So we're utilizing these cheap prices of PTGC and of the other tokens that we're connected with to our benefit instead of our downfall.
Interesting, bro. That's really good to know, because I didn't know that. I didn't know it was tied to the dollar amount, the reward. So once it goes higher, they shrink that much. But that should have been obvious, because back early on, we were getting millions a day in interest in staking early, and now it's cut down. But this is crypto. This is the volatility. Like every time you pump up 6-8x, you're gonna come back down. Like nothing goes up forever. It's impossible. Anything that does is called a true Ponzi scheme.
Well, those also usually come down. They just are a little bit more delayed, and the come down's a lot harder.
Yeah.
And just to highlight, like you said, like early on, people were earning millions of PTDC per day in rewards. Well, a million PTDC today is worth what, $200 or $300, something like that. So day after day, as those millions stack up and as prices going up, price is going up, and now you're receiving less rewards, same dollar value, less tokens, but now the tokens that you have earned are experiencing that price appreciation to where you can look back like, wow, I earned what, 50 million tokens back in December 2023. That's now worth whatever, $15,000 today.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. So you can look at these cheaper prices, negatively because your portfolio is down, but since the machine is running actually very well at these levels, you're earning more PTGC, you're earning more UFO, which when prices recover, not only just on PTGC and UFO, but the entire market, right? When ETH starts to recover, Bitcoin starts to recover, when Pulsechain starts to recover a little bit, that's going to revalue all of these PTGC tokens you're earning down here at these levels. And anyone who's like, for example, you were saying you bought a little higher and then it came down. Well, that's the benefit of just being down at these levels. Definitely, it hurts a little bit because the portfolio came down, but that also is the benefit for new users coming in and picking up these cheap PTGC prices, because now they're getting the PTGC for cheap and they're earning the rewards at cheap prices. So then when the whole system moves up together, their portfolio is moving up in price, and also their rewards that they earned at these levels are doing the X's as well. And if you look at the past on PTGC, each time Pulse has hit these low levels, it has actually marked lows for the PTGC and UFO ecosystem. And every time Pulse has moved up off of these levels, PTGC and UFO have been doing like 45x moves, because then the system grows with the market growing, right? Everything kind of is connected.
Love it. Prairie Banana, you want to share some slides here? I'm just looking at that and looking immediately at the PDI and how that is such a small amount, because I feel bad for projects that have burnt pairs with PDI or burnt LPs with them where you can't just gank them. So it sucks for people, but this is not going to affect PTGC or UFO at all. So anyone out there that says, oh, PTGC and UFO, they're going to struggle because they have the pairs with PDI. No, look at the actual numbers. It's less than 2%.
Yeah. Struggle, very little. I mean, listen to the words, very little. I mean, 2%, I mean, come on. Okay. So yeah, this is our LP pairs. PTDC on the left, UFO on the right. Most of PTDC's LP is burnt liquidity. UFO is all user provided. We have very thick liquidity pools, but you'll see that PDI, I mean, for both of these tokens, in both of these pools, PDI used to be a very large pool. In 10 days, it's dropped down into what? The hundreds, the low 100,000s.
And is that mostly from community members that had added positions to there, or is that
for UFO? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Many of the community members pulled their UFO, PDI, LPs, and that's what I recorded yesterday. Zen was 130,000 and 101 for PTDC. PTDC's liquidity is burnt. I think perhaps we had some that wasn't. Zen, you can talk about that, but
yeah, pretty much. We did have a decent amount that was not burnt, and this is with Teddy Bear and the Trope as well. When RH made his first tweet, pretty much saying, "Hey, this is not mine." This is like 5 days ago now, even though it feels like weeks ago. We did close those down and pool them, and we took that value and we put that LP in Pulse X, Hex, Most, and Pump. So we kind of diversified our web into some of the tokens that we believe had a little bit more sustainability. For example, Most and Pump. On this day, I think RH literally sold his PDI into Most and to Pump. They've been kind of said to be maybe associated with him. So I took that as kind of a green light on those assets to incorporate those assets into our web as meme tokens on the chain and de-risk from the PDI narrative, right? And overall, I think it's been a decent decision.
Yeah, it was 100%, man. It's a tough pill to swallow for some people. Like I've been bummed out for a couple days now. Just like, damn, this was such a. It was like the perfect narrative that was just gifted right to us to run with. You know, the most decentralized blockchain out there. Richard Hart is just preaches self custody. You know, no middlemen, and to have our own stable coin where no one can shut your keys off. I just, man, it could have been so big, but hey, I guess it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. He clearly wants us to sell down PTI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to go to the next slide?
I can't. Oh, I can't. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Yep.
So I've got a 1 million PTDC lock. It's a maxed out, most you can do PTDC lock. And what that does is allows us to get information, right? So started this lock on the February 9th, 2024. So this February, I had a solid year's worth of data. And it was very easy to determine that staking earns more, is at least in the last year. I'm not saying about anything about going forward, but staking earned 55% more than holding, and locking earned 125% more than holding. So you hold PTDC and you're in reflections. It's real easy. You get the token, you're immediately earning reflections, and then you can start learning about, what can I do with this token? I don't suggest you go do a 10-year lock right away. Learn what you're doing, understand what you're doing before you go, even staking, especially locking. You want to go into those two functions fully educated, knowing what you're doing. So 55% more for holding. For staking, 125% more for locking is what we discovered over the last year. And then in UFO, I did the same thing. I have a 1 million UFO that I'm holding, and I have another 1 million UFO that I'm LPing. And what we found is that the LP APY, 21%. The reflections just for holding, 111%. So why are the reflections so much more? Well, because LP'd UFO is not earning reflections, and a lot of people just choose to hold UFO and not LP it. And then there's a difference in what you earn, just so the viewers can know. When you LP UFO, you're going to be earning PLS. When you're holding UFO, you'll earn UFO. So it's kind of a dilemma. What do I do? Well, maybe a mix of both. Because when you're earning the token that's going up against the token that you're earning if you're LPing, well, if you're LPing UFO, there might be an extra step that you want to do if you want. If you're happy with the PLS, then you're set. But if you'd like to be in the other token that is going up against PLS, then obviously it involves an extra step.
Yeah, I'll add to that a little bit, Banana. A lot of the reason why the reflections APY is bigger than the LPing APY is because the reflections APY came in UFO, and UFO, as of right now, from when, let's say, this position was created, is still up 10x, right, or roughly. But PLS is actually down from when this was created. So the asset you're earning the APY in is actually having more price appreciation than the LPing asset. To where if the person providing LP, as soon as they got the PLS, let's say once every 2 weeks, took that PLS and turned it into UFO, that APY would have actually been better, because when they flipped it into UFO, those UFO tokens would have appreciated in price, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now we did a little experiment, Adam. We're like, okay, so what's the most that the DAO, because PTDC is a DAO, UFO is not. What could this DAO do for the tokens, for burning the tokens, if we put a concerted effort toward it? So we determined that between PTDC, because UFO burns PTDC, so there's a blend of this in here. But 2% of the fees go to the Dow. Now, if you did that every day, if you sent all the fees, they do go to the Dow, by the way. But if you kept all those fees for 1 year, and at $10 million in volume a day, the Dow would have $73 million. And if PTGC burns 0.5%, it does burn 0.5%. That'd be $18,250,000. UFO burns 1%, which is $36.5 million. So at the year end, we could effectively burn $128 million worth of PTGC, and we have the ability to send that to the dead wallet, which is an enormous number. And that just, to me, it illustrates the power of the PTGC DAO.
Yeah, let me go into this really quick. So what this number is $10 million in volume, Vibra, which we haven't yet seen a $10 million day in volume yet. But what we have seen is like $2 million days in volume with the PTGC and UFO ecosystem. But what we actually are predicting, and this is no guarantee, it's just a prediction, that as Pulsechain gains adoption and as the price of Pulsechain increases, this is going to increase our liquidity web, right? Like, because right now we have like $5 million in PTGC and let's say almost $10 million in UFO and liquidity. Well, if Pulsechain 10x's, so is the liquidity web. So PTGC can turn into 50 million and UFO could get close to $100 million in liquidity. Well, now market makers need to move 10 times the amount of money to fix prices, which we're mechanically increasing our volume with the PTGC and UFO ecosystem. So as the thing we're attached to grows, and as we grow, we can actually mechanically keep increasing this volume. So what we're creating is a scenario to where if we can mechanically increase our volume to these levels, this is actually what we're capable of bringing in on a yearly basis. You know, and that's no guarantee. We don't know how successful Pulsechain is going to be. It could only do a 10x, right? This is like this example here. Or it could do 100x, right? It could do a 500x. We really don't know what it does. But in this example, if we're performing $10 million a day in daily volume, these are actually the numbers that we could be accumulating for buy and burns via the DAO, the automatic functions, which are really powerful, right? $128 million of value generation for buy and burns in the future could be huge for the protocol. When you think back to like what the God Whale did for Hex back in the day, it was only like a total of, I think, $5 million or something like that. And that did so much for Hex. Imagine a God Whale built into the code of PTGC, not only just doing 5 million, but being able to do over 100 million or even tens of millions of buy and burns on a yearly basis.
So is there like, I know the power, and I was, back on really fascinated when people were just creating liquidity pairs and getting bots to do volume without any human interaction. So if you like hypothetically started creating just new liquidity pairs, would that automatically build a volume up, or has that been tested at all? Do you know of?
So we expand our liquidity web to increase the volume 100%. But we also want to be bonded with things that are appreciating in price over time. So then we also get the Hart's Law effect from these assets that we're connected to. We don't want to just bond with something just to use it as a bouncing board to increase volume. We want to use things that we're connecting to increase volume, but also use these same tokens to help appreciate our price over time. Because if those assets go up in price and we go up in price, we can actually multiply those together to make it to where the price appreciation is so much greater. This is still yet to really even happen on chain. Really, PDI is the best example because that's one of the only things that has went up in price on chain. But currently, all RH tickers haven't really gone up in price. So we haven't even gotten to see the main secret sauce of PTGC take place. The real secret sauce is when we're moving up in price, which we have done in the last year and a half, and the assets that we're connected to move up in price, you can multiply that together, get maximum price appreciation and volume appreciation, because your liquidity will be increasing massively, making it so now market makers need to move more money, which when market makers move more money, it equals more buy and burn value, equals more LP value, equals more APY as well. So we're still waiting on one of these key features to play out. If it never plays out, we can still thrive and win. We just have to thrive and win on our own, right? So it's kind of not like if this doesn't happen, it doesn't work. We've been doing this for the last year and a half, right? Without the help of Pulsechain, and look at how many X's we've done. So we don't need Pulsechain to help us. But if Pulsechain does ever start appreciating in price, it turns this system onto high gear and becomes a monster where like these numbers are possible, which those numbers seem absolutely crazy when you think about $128 million of value buying and burning a single token. It's just unheard of.
I just did a little experiment in the Moon Math calculator. I toned the volume per day down to $1 million of volume per day. And that would put the burning at 12.8, not 128 million, but 12.8 million. And that would, if we bought $12.8 million worth of tokens, that would 46x the price of PTGC.
And that's happening mechanically, right? So that's what's important is like with other systems, you are hoping that some big player comes in and buys the chart and never sells. For an example, like I'm going to say in another ecosystem, they're hoping RH one day comes and helps buy the chart and takes those tokens off the market. But we're not going to be reliant on asking for work from others or wanting work for others. What we're going to lean on is code and mechanics to do this for us. It just happens slower and over a period of time, but it does start to add up. For an example, Vibra, we've been holding our DAO funds for a few weeks now because the market's been trending down. There's been some uncertainty. So we're kind of waiting for the market to find a floor before we start utilizing these funds again so we can push up with the market, right? You don't want to just keep swimming against the current always. Sometimes it's better to just relax, let the current push you back a little bit. And then when the current slows down or pushes in your direction, that's when you start swimming with it, right? So just in the last few weeks, we've been able to accumulate in our DAO, which we have pretty much in the smart contract and in the management wallet right now, 13 billion Pulse.
Wow.
Which is sitting on the sidelines pretty much ready for buy and burns or LP ads when the time is right. And the awesome thing about that is when this time comes, when the market starts moving back in our favor and we start utilizing these funds for buy and burns, LP ads or whatnot, when we're utilizing them, it's refilling. It's not a situation where we have this 13 billion and we use it and it's gone, right? Like just a wallet that's there to eventually purchase it up. It's growing every single day. So like for an example, a couple days ago, it made 1 billion Pulse in one day. 1 billion Pulse came into the DAO in one day. So as we're pushing back up, even though we're spending some, it's constantly refilling itself, and it's going to refill itself forever, right? So as we use it, it's going to refill. It's going to refill. So it creates a loop of a system that never goes dry. Yeah, some days fill up way better than other days, right? Like you'll have a day that you generate 1 billion Pulse in one day. You have other days where you only generate 100 million, right? But the point is it never goes dry. And as the system keeps growing, it actually is a snowball effect, which makes it accumulate more and more and more. Like the snowball is getting bigger as it rolls down the hill, making it to where the amount of funds it's raking in becomes constantly increasing. And the way you can see that in real time, since you've been around since like day 3, Vibra, Pulsechain has hit these levels 3 times now. The first time, we were only getting, 100 million pulse for a proposal every like few days, right? And then the next microcycle, it was like, oh, okay, we're getting 100 million pulse like almost every day now. So we could feel the machine running even better and better. Well, now we've tapped this point again, and it's like, oh, dang, we're doing 3 proposals a day, and we can't even keep up with it. So even if Pulsechain runs up again, and then if Pulsechain recycles back down to these exact same levels, right? Like let's say an altcoin season comes, we cycle up 10x Pulsechain, right? That would be nice, 10x. And then let's say it comes all the way back down to these levels. Well, PTGC in price has never cycled back down to the previous levels that before. It's always landing like 10x higher. But more importantly, the constant revenue generation is actually growing as well. So every time we hit these new levels of PTGC and Pulsechain hits the exact same levels, we're generating more revenue at these lows, which that means we're scooping up tons of PLS at discounted prices because the machine's running better. My bet, honestly, is, and this is no financial advice, it's just what I think is going to happen. On the next move up of Pulsechain, it's going to be a move up of the whole entire market. Like there'll be like an altcoin season or whatever, and this will be technically the bull run. I don't think PLS is going to land back at these levels. I think it's going to land a little bit higher. That could be sack rate. It could be half a sack rate, but just not these all-time lows. I think we will get to a point where we don't keep re-hitting lower lows, and we'll hit actually higher highs on this of the microcycles, which means PTGC will be running at even higher levels at the lows. So it will be bringing in more value because the whole entire liquidity web will be increased, which makes the machine mechanically run at higher levels as well.
Dude, that, bro, I cannot wait. And for everyone that's still holding on for the PDI dream, I feel like de-risking into PTGC or UFO, you got to save yourself in that, because I don't know anybody else that puts the thought, the work, and has the liquidity and the receipts to back up everything that you just said. Like, you've literally been doing that. You've just been crushing it, and I know everything is going to continue, and PTGC and UFO are going to be talked about forever. And as these other projects continue to have problems, communities aren't loyal, they dissolve or whatever, PTGC and UFO are always going to be there in the background. I feel like it's going to constantly just slowly suck people up from other communities. And once you're here, like, I don't know how you exit.
Yeah, it's, so a lot of things in crypto, people like the speculation, right? So like the whole PDI speculation, that's very attractive and people tend to follow that. But the sad truth is usually the narrative and the speculation is never true, right? It's like, yeah, you might hit 1 out of 100, and you can make X's on the speculation. I'm not saying that, right? Like you could have rode a 100X easy on PDI and sold the top if you were good. But the truth is, for long-term plays, 99% of the time, it's just a narrative. There's no facts there, it's not true. But the nice thing about PTGC and UFO is there is no real narrative. We are literally watching the machine do what it's been designed to do for 1.5 years, and it's proving to literally just keep ramping up higher and higher and higher as time goes on. So you just have to ask yourself, yeah, it might take a little bit longer than a meme coin that pops up today to do a 10x, for us to do a 10x because we're so much larger. But you know what you're actually leaning on as far as a machine. You know how it works. You know how it's generating revenue. You can trust it. The liquidity is majority burnt in the system, so you don't have to worry about it being taken, and you know where your APY is actually coming from. You can actually look into the machine. We educate on the machine, so you don't have to trust people. You can actually just put some weight in machines and code, and that's why we're here, right? To be in trustless systems. So you don't have to give up custody of your tokens. You don't have to hope that this doesn't get changed, or pray that this person who's taken over MakerDAO actually acts benevolently for you instead of benevolently for them, or not benevolently, but for themselves, right? Like that's what people are hoping for right now. Like, oh, he might start acting good on us. It's like, well, he hasn't forever, so why would he change? Or, oh, RH might do this and save it. And it's like, I get that. That might happen, or maybe ETH maker people come over here and cut the inflation. But the thing is, all that's just speculation. And how much of your portfolio are you willing to speculate with? And how much of your portfolio should you put in a machine that you know how it operates? And you've seen a year and a half of it just doing what it's been designed to do, with not one veer from what it's been supposed to do. Of course, there's pumps and retracements, right? Like, this is any crypto, especially because everything's bonded together of the market, right? Everything's going to flow up and flow down. But every time it comes to these low levels of Pulsechain, you can see PTGC landing at higher floors. And when you look at the metrics, everything's increasing on the back end. The APY at these prices are higher than ever. The amount of bought and burnt tokens daily have increased massively. So, or not tokens, dollar value. So our dollar value of buy and burns daily has increased greatly every time these microcycles hit these lows. The amount of bought and burnt tokens in general has increased. The last time we're at this price, we had less liquidity than the time we're at this price. So our liquidity is constantly growing, even though we've recycled to same prices. So what that creates is, the next time the machine is ready to move up to the next level, when prices are ready to increase via the market increasing, Pulsechain increasing, we have a wider foundation, like a pyramid. So the wider we build our foundation, the higher we can actually build this thing up, and it can actually be sustainable. Most things just build their towers straight up, and eventually they get so high that they start waving and they eventually crumble and they can never come back up. But every time that we come down to these levels, we spend the entire time focusing on the foundation. We're making ourselves wider, so the next time we're ready to push back up, we can build our tower even higher. But the most important thing is, with sustainability being the number one focus. Because if you don't make sustainability the number one focus, and you make only X's the number one focus, eventually it all comes crumbling down and none of it even mattered.
Those are all good points, Zen. So, Vibra, you popped up this slide. Just made this morning. Put it on my Twitter. If you guys want to pass it around, it's on my Twitter, at Prairie Banana. But the last time PTDC was at this price, where I recorded it this morning, 30241, there were 6.9 billion tokens available to buy. And you can see that at pulsetgc.com. Go to the stats page, and there's a little red wedge in the pie chart there that represents, I think, 4 different LP pools. And the last time we were at this price, there were 6.9 billion tokens. How do I know this? Because I recorded every day. Today, when I recorded today, there's 5.1 billion tokens in that pool, which is a 26% reduction, which can only mean, like in my mind, that can only mean one thing. If all the conditions were the same going up to the previous all-time high, we should get there sooner. Does that not make sense, Zen?
Yeah, you also have to pay attention to the price of Pulse, right? So even though we're at these exact same levels, you have to remember Pulse is at lower levels. So the reason we have less tokens in liquidity is actually we are landing at higher floors against Pulsechain when Pulsechain is hitting lower lows, which means there's less tokens in liquidity. It's just the fact that Pulsechain is holding us back. We are currently being suppressed due to the blockchain that we're built on. But when that suppression, when that discount gets taken away, everything's going to lift up together, right? So we currently are being suppressed via the blockchain that we're built on is actually giving people sales on PTGC tokens. For an example, there's sales on Pulsechain in general right now. There keeps being sales. You've been able to get better prices the longer you've waited, but you haven't been able to really get better prices the longer you've waited on PTGC. Every time Pulsechain runs into these low levels, it actually marks the best price that you ever are going to get for PTGC. Because when it moves back up, PTGC never comes back to those low levels again. It makes a higher high. So I look at it like when Pulsechain goes into these low levels, and PTGC also, right? Like we've had our own sell-off. Also, we are tied to a bunch of assets that have gone down. But what it does is it creates a new discount, a new sale price. And in the past, anyone who's actually taken advantage of the sale price, which is difficult, right? To buy that red is a hard thing to do. It's easier to buy the green. But in the past, if you've taken advantage of it, those have been the best places to make gains. The first move of Pulsechain, this isn't even like people like Vibra who got in really, really early to PTGC. I'm talking about people that came in like months later, right? The first time Pulsechain hit its lows was like months after PTGC launched. The first move of Pulsechain, you did a 45x in PTGC when Pulse only did like a 4x. Well, then Pulsechain came back to these lows. And if you took advantage of getting into PTGC at those times, PTGC and UFO, because UFO was out at this time, did another 45x move, where Pulsechain only did like a 2 to 3x move. Well, now everything has cycled back down. Pulsechain re-landed back at the same price. PTGC landed at higher prices, and the time will tell. Like we don't know what the future holds, but we're just talking about what's happened in the past. So by taking advantage of the sale price that the blockchain is giving you on PTGC and UFO right now, if you study the past, it's worked out very, very well, right, comparatively. But that's obviously no guarantee, like players could just sell or whatever. But I do think the past is the best way to predict the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm waiting for that too. Is because we haven't seen a real pump yet. Like we've had some green candles, but like Pulsechain is still 75% below sac rate. Like once it starts to get up above there and we make a new floor and just richer, I don't know, Interpool's not chasing Richard. We're not fighting everyone on chain. Like ETH starts to go up and break 2000 or 2100, where it just seems to be stuck at lately. Like this is as bad as it gets. And look at the stats. Like you can't lie. The coin is performing better than anyone I think could have imagined a year and a half ago. Like we were talking and theorizing about what could potentially happen, but now look at right in front of your face, it's there. And like you said, we're primed for another go. And we need these dips to kind of clear out and make a runway, let you build up some ammo to start firing once things are back down where it's worth doing. And a lot of new people come in and they see stuff on Twitter where people are posting because they did well, but that's the top of stuff. Like you need to be buying at these times when you would say, why would I buy this coin? The chart looks terrible right now to most people. Well, no, this is the buying opportunity. So anyone that actually knows what they're doing, but for new people, it's hard. And I try my best to get people in the right projects and just get in early and just hold. And it's proven to win. I mean, if you locked up a year ago, your PTGC, just look at the difference now. Look at how much is burnt off the market. And this is only going to ramp up when Pulsechain picks up. So
yeah, that's one of the things. So like the machine is running as intended, right? One of the key features that I thought would be a little bit different as of right now is I thought Pulsechain was going to be at higher prices. So I thought that the machine was going to be running at higher levels due to the bondedness with the blockchain and the blockchain thriving, right? Like I thought Pulsechain was going to be thriving a little bit more right now. But what I'm actually very, very impressed in is the resilience of PTGC and UFO and how they've actually been able to thrive very well in this very unfavorable environment. But what happens when the environment turns favorable to this system? I really don't know, right? Like, for an example, PTGC still hasn't seen a pulse chain above SAC rate since UFO has came out. And UFO buys and burns a heck out of PTGC. So what happens when PTGC is in an environment where UFO is out buying and burning it? When UFO is out, UFO has never even seen a PLS above SAC rate since its existence. So how does this machine can actually operate together in synergy with the blockchain we're built on and our connected assets performing with us instead of against us? It's, in my opinion, going to be super exciting for anyone who's in. It might suck if you're not in because you're going to be watching from the sidelines the UFO just take off. But again, that's why I've been spending so much time like trying to educate on UFO and PTGC, saying, hey, I get that the prices of the whole entire blockchain feel down, but every metric that we're looking at in the PTGC and UFO ecosystem are rising to new floors each time. And once Pulsechain gets adoption or is any bit remotely successful, prices of this ecosystem can leave so quick to where you'd be like just standing there like, oh my gosh, I had like 5 discounted opportunities to buy the dip and I didn't take advantage of either, and I watched it for a year and a half.
Yeah, bro. These dips are the opportunities, pure and simple. And when you're here long enough, you recognize that.
Yeah, and I don't mean that in a like financial advice way. Like it could go more down tomorrow, right? Like Pulsechain could keep running down, PTGC and UFO could be at more of a discount tomorrow. If you're looking to get into the PTGC and UFO ecosystem and you want a position, I'm just saying there is a discount right now, and DCA strategies are really real. Using a solid DCA strategy to gain your position makes it to where you can kind of try to grab wherever the floor is for PTGC and UFO, because a lot of the floor is determined on the entire market and the Pulsechain market. When Pulsechain hits a floor, that will most likely be the floor for PTGC and UFO as well. But we don't know where that is.
Yeah. So in reference to this slide, Adam, you can see the blue line is UFO and the gold line is PTDC. Those are the really exaggerated ones, right? And then down below, you've got Hex, PulseX, Pulse, and Ink. And just notice, like for the viewers, if you just notice the extreme like upward pressure that Hex, for example, that top lower line causes in the Gray's currencies, you know, it's impressive. And we can only imagine like when Hex makes it to move or Pulse makes it to move, what the effect is going to be on the Gray's currencies. I mean, if history repeats, or at least it rhymes, you know, it's going to be epic. If you guys want to get into some moon math, I'm ready for that. We got a couple.
Yeah.
Did we do this with you last time, Adam?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But I love it. So now that we're down at way lower prices, I think the moon math will be a little bit different.
It is a little different. When we were up at all-time highs, it was very different. But it's still a boost. So if you'll pull up that middle presentation up there.
Sorry. Yep.
My computer.
There we go.
Okay.
So I'll bring it full screen.
There we go. Cool. We're at lookintoptdc.com, which is Crypto Kong's creation. And if you guys want a subscription, you can do that, because a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you guys is behind a paywall. But we're going to look at PTDC, PLS. What could PTDC look like when Pulse does certain levels? And we're going to throw in what's called an X factor. We're going to make it 5. The X factor is how much does PTDC move up against the layer 1? And in the last year, it has moved up. I haven't really looked at it, Zen, but I think it's somewhere between 30 and 40x in the last year. We're going to put in a modest 5, and you'll see why we like to keep it modest. And let's speculate that from here, Pulsechain 100x's. I think it could do that. So that would be just so you can do this on your own. That's 100. It's going to be 100 times 500
Maybe
times 5.
Vibra. What are you hoping, or what do you think is possible for Pulsechain right now, or what do you modestly, kind of have on your radar?
My gut tells me like 30 to 50x.
Let's use that number, Banana.
Around there. Like I want to be conservative. Like I think there's going to be these like the PTGCs, UFOs, some of the other leverage plays I think are going to really just smash Pulsechain, because even Pulse X, like I think is going to do double. Like I'm personally not holding any Pulsechain. I only hold Pulse X.
So I don't know if we talked about this last time, Vibra. Let me give you my little philosophy on this, right? Is in crypto, they're on blockchains, right? There's the transactional currency, and then there's the assets. And you can actually move the transactional currency, which is Pulse, into assets that are designed in code to actually outperform the transactional currency. So in the real world, which fiat is technically the transactional currency, and let's say you have tons of fiat, does it make sense for you to transfer that fiat into an asset if you're going to try to make gains on it and APY on it? Or does it make sense for you just to sit and hold it in fiat? It's so obvious, right? You would never sit there in fiat if you had a decent amount of it and you didn't need to pay bills with it next month. The best thing you can do is move that transactional currency to an asset that appreciates over time and pays you dividends, right? That's your hedge against the inflation. Well, you can do the same thing on blockchains, right? Pulsechain is the transactional currency. Yeah, it's designed to do more X's over fiat, right? It's an asset compared to fiat. But take that idea away and let's look at just Pulsechain as a whole. Well, Pulse is the transactional currency, and you can actually transfer that transactional currency into assets on the chain that are designed to appreciate more than the transactional currency and designed to pay you APY. That's the benefit of moving over. So you can move that transactional currency over to something like Pulse X or PTGC or UFO, which have specific smart contracts that are designed to outperform the transactional currency over time. It doesn't make any sense to just hold tons of fiat, right? Like you look at a millionaire or a multimillionaire and you ask them like, well, how much of your portfolio is in transactional currency and assets? And you'll find out that like 95% of their value, their wealth, is in assets. It's not being held in the transactional currency. That doesn't mean they're gambling with it, right? You need to understand the difference between assets and gambling. A certain portfolio is in high risk, like assets, like high risk business moves, which I would consider is like under the gambling category. Some of it's literally just gambling, but there's the high risk category. If that's 10% of their net worth, if it hits, it hits. And then what do? They move the value that they made on the high risk category to the real sustainable assets. So you can kind of look at your blockchain life almost like in real life, because we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just adding air and rubber around it, right? To make it a smoother ride with blockchain. So I 100% agree with you. There's really not a big point to hold tons of Pulse when Pulse X outperforms it. It has a higher buy and burn built into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And anytime Pulse moves up, it just drags PulseX up with it. And then that's how I look at PTGC and UFO also is, it's got such a large claim check on PLS. Yeah, in short term, sometimes it underperforms it like it's done in the last few months, but that's because everything's moving down for the most part and people taking profits because we moved up so much. But at these discounted zones, it really does offer a great opportunity to take some of those transactional currencies. And if you have a long-term vision here on Pulsechain, move some of that transactional currency to assets that are designed to appreciate in price faster and pay you for being in that asset because they're value generating systems. All right, keep going, guys. Sorry, I just wanted to kind of give my philosophy on that and how it relates to the real world.
Adam, I don't hold PLS either. And we'll take a quick segue. I'll show you why I don't hold PLS. So this is the PTDC chart. And you guys can do this, the viewers. You guys can do this for any token that PTDC or UFO, for that matter, are bonded with. Pull up the chart, pull up the pair, and then see this light over here. You see the USD, WPLS. We're looking at the chart in terms of USD right now. I'm going to flip. Let's zoom out a little bit. Then I'm going to flip the chart to see it in terms of WPLS. And you'll see a history here of PTDC moving up against WPLS and if you kind of just scroll this way, you can see the volatility to the upside over time much better than just looking at it as we are right now. But PTDC, I mean, it hit 1-to-1 with PLS on August 26th last year. And now it's, I think, let's see where we're at. We're at 8.9 PLS per PTDC right now. So that's an experiment. You can do that with all of the tokens, some that you might be thinking of flipping your PDI out into. Look at them in terms of PTDC and UFO and the ratios, and then make your decision.
Yeah, you can also flip that chart to log because that really helps visualize how many X's were done against Pulse previously, right? And you can see a trend there, right? And if you follow that trend, we're kind of hitting the opportunity zone. And again, like everything could go to zero, this isn't financial advice, but if you draw a line on that trend, we're actually hitting those bottom marks, which previously have shown to be the best entry points.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
That's what it's all about, man. I try to find the moves that I don't have to make the least amount of moves with the least amount of risk. So swapping from Pulse into PulseX 2 years ago, it made me a bunch of PulseX. Moving my hex. As soon as the Richard Hart eHex FUD came out last summer, I told everybody, swap all of your hex into eHex right now. It was almost 9-to-1 was the ratio. And now it was almost to 3. I think we're at like 4-to-1 right now. So even today, I found one of my wallets where I had like 40,000 hex in it. I swapped it all right into eHex. I got like 150,000-ish. And I'm pretty sure in 6 to 8 months from now, I'll be able to swap back maybe 65,000 and get back the 40 I had in there.
Nice.
And it's even with the tax tokens, like with the 6%, it kind of prevents me from trading in and out and doing that, because a move in and out, that's going to be 12%. So you got to take that into account. So that's what kind of prevents me. But I'm a long-term thinker. I'm in crypto for multi-cycles. I think Whales Only said it the best, where if you play crypto right, it's 2 cycles, 8 to 10 years, and you can be retired. Where else in the world can you do that?
Yeah, there you go.
I just look at what that chart you just showed there against Pulse in log there, how much we went up from the beginning, where if you go back in the chart, those huge green candles where it goes parabolic, you can't even see them right now. They look like little blips. And right where we are now, we see this huge red candle. It looks like it's crashing, but another 6-8 months, this is going to be so far down, we won't even see. This is going to be so minuscule when we start pushing up into the hundreds of millions and into the billions of dollar market cap. And I know that's where this is going. And the track record is there. Like anyone that fudges at this point, like just block them or just stop. I don't know. It's beyond me. The facts are there. The history's there. And it's one of the strongest communities on chain.
Yep. PTDC has 18 months of flawless operation. UFO, 10 months. And by the way, this is the UFO chart, guys. And it is up, just a rough estimate, up 15x against the layer 1 pulse since June. Right. Let's get back to the moon math. So we were going to put in an X factor of 5, Adam, and you said somewhere between 30 and 50. So we put a 40x into this field for pulse. So that'd be 40 times 5. PTDC moves against the layer 1 at a factor of 5. Layer 1 does a 40x. Now let's see what that would do. How that would impact PTDC. It would be a 200x or a nearly 5-cent PTDC. And the same would apply for UFO because they're very similar. They're heavily bonded, and the results would be very similar for UFO. Yeah, your response is pretty classic. It's impactful, isn't it? And that's just a 40x, man, and that's just a 5x X factor. And then you can go over to. I want to hit the lock calculator. This is like my new favorite. Okay, that we've got some, that 1 million PTDC lock that I have. Also gave us some locking data, which was very insightful. So what we found out, Adam? 395 million PTDC is being unlocked every month. 395 million early unlocked, which early unlockers incur a 30% penalty, which is paid to all the other lockers, right? So as price moves up, that's going to be meaningful. At these lower prices, it's not so meaningful. And here's the breakdown. When you hold PTDC or you have it staked, you are earning reflections at the price of PTDC today. Locked PTDC, it doesn't matter. It's not based on price. It's based on token quantity. So somebody unlocks 1 billion tokens, they're going to send 300 million tokens to all the other lockers. It doesn't matter what those tokens are worth. So, and what we found is 395 million is being unlocked every month. So let's say you have 100 million PTDC, and let's say the price went up to, I'm going to go a little bit high. Let's say it's up at 10 cents. I think I don't know, Sam, are we like 30x from a penny right now? So that'd be 300x to 10 cents. That's a big move, but let's just see what that would do to this guy's lock. So he has 100 million PTDC at a 10-year lock. So he's earning 100% of the locking penalty rewards that he could possibly earn. The price is now 10 cents. And in this month, there was 300, it averaged. We don't know what it's going to be going forward, but let's just say the average is 395 million tokens get unlocked in this month, this hypothetical month. He would earn $8,500 from that unlock or those unlocks, because it's probably going to be multiple in a month's time frame. That's what it would look like. And obviously, if it was a penny, it'd be a tenth of that. $850 for locking up 100 million tokens for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, obviously, if you're locked up more, it just gets, you can mess around with this quite a bit, So that can give you guys a sense of the power of locking, because it's almost like there are two ways. The way I look at it, there are two ways to generate income from PTDC: holding it and staking it, and then these locking penalty rewards. They're almost separate categories, if you will. And then the reflections, we'll go to the reflections calculator. We'll go to experimental mode, and we'll see what there's a random address in here, the demo address, that we can calculate yields from. And we're going to calculate yields based on a certain volume. So do you have any idea what volume PTDC could do on average for a year? Zen, do you care to weigh in on that?
Yeah, so we're at the bottoms of Pulsechain right now, which means our machine is operating with least amount of liquidity, most likely, that we have. And just sorry, I was getting a call. Just in the last week, we've seen some over $1 million days. So I definitely believe that $5 million days are very easily possible with a successful chain.
All right, well, let's leave that at 5 million then. And we already calculated it. So the return would be 243 million PTDC, but we don't know what he holds. So let's scroll down a little bit and we'll see. He is a shark that holds 570 million PTDC. So he would earn, in dollar terms, nearly $5,000 a month. And this is reflections only. This isn't counting staking and, of course, locking rewards. But in a year, he would earn $58,000 in reflections. And that's at $5 million in volume. UFO is set up a little bit different. The UFO doesn't have any staking or locking.
Real quick, Banana, just while we're on PTGC. So that was just reflections, but a lot of people who care about APY are also staked and also locked, right? One thing to keep in mind that some people, I don't know if you know this, Vibra, some whales have been accumulating PTGC and they've been locking out hundreds of thousands of dollars of PTGC for 10 years.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Yeah, one of the biggest hex stakers, who's I think in the top 5 biggest hex stakers of all time, who has 15-year locks out. He's been accumulating PTGC and locking his PTGC out hundreds of $1,000 clips out 10 years. He's been doing it consistently.
When did he start getting in?
He started to get in
December.
The last push-up. December, and then he slowed down near the top, and then he's actually in the last week, I think, done another 100K into PTGC, locked that out 10 years as well. So he keeps pretty much, and then he had some locks that were 90 days, some of his first entries into PTGC. When they fulfilled the 90 days, he unlocked and then relocked them for 10 years.
Just to make sure it worked.
Or just because he wanted that extra locking yield. And maybe he really likes the idea of delaying his gratification. This is what he's done with Hex. And it looks like he's doing it with PTGC. But where I'm getting at is if you're an APY person, you're most likely not just holding these assets. And if you're staked and locked, you're earning roughly 200% more than these numbers that Banana's going over right now. So it's technically times 3. If you scroll down real quick, Banana. I just like to give people the actual numbers if they're APY people, because if you're an APY person, you're going to stake and lock, most likely. So you can actually, I can't see because I'm on my phone, but for an example, in this shark position, what's $58,000 yearly for just holding is actually more like $150,000 if you're staked and locked, which is a lot better, obviously, compared to $50,000. And that's if you're an APY person. If you're not in the staking and locking, you can still earn. So it's not like you're completely out of this pot of getting more of something that's becoming less, but you're just not getting as much as the people who are willing to put a little bit more conviction in their play.
All right, UFO. Built a little different. This is going to show you the reflections for holding UFO at $5 million in volume. Annual return be 436%. Why is that? It's partly because of a lot of people are LPing their UFO. So that those LP UFOs are not earning reflections. So the other people are returning. All those reflections are going to the UFO holders, and they're getting those. It's like they're double dipping. So this gentleman is a dolphin, and his APY is 413%. His yearly yield reflections only is $43,000. Any comments on that, Zen?
No, that one's I'm cool with. That one's just you hold and earn.
Well, let's see. I think that's it for the moon math. I mean, we could do the moon math 2.0, and I could show you where we're getting the. Well, I already showed you guys that. Where if we put the 12.8 million in, and it would bump the price 45x, something like that. Yeah, I think we're done with the presentation, guys.
I love it. Sorry, let me bring us back on here. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I was just
I agree, man. I think that's a pretty good stopping point. I think we went over a lot of data.
Yeah, like back here, you know, these were huge green candles way back in the day, but you just can't see them now. You know, they disappear, and that's exactly what's going to happen to where we are now as we move on in time. These are the buying points.
Yep.
Like the rewards are crazy. I've been holding it for, man, almost a year and a half now. How long have we been out for?
PTGC,
10 months.
Yeah.
UFO.
Oh, UFO, like 8 months, I think. 10 months.
10.
Almost 11 months. 10 months, 24 days. Wow. So I can't a trope, man. Maria is just going crazy on stream. Just unloading Atropa 300K clips at a time. So like so many things are bonded with Atropa that a lot of stuff's red. So we'll see how this plays out.
It's really sad, right? Like the people who had a lot of people had a lot of conviction in that play, and for them to just get dumped on is just not a good look for our chain.
No, and I think that there's that huge LP pool. I think didn't the Atropa die pair, isn't this the one that's locked?
Yeah, he burnt that pair. I think that's a big reason why he just started nuking his chart is he knew he could not get away from PDI just dying into oblivion. So he just said, "Oh, I'm going to just take all the money I can get out of this." You know, will he use that for other things in the future? I hope so for his believers, right? I hope it wasn't just all right, see you guys. I just walked away with all this ETH. But again, that's part of this game. And when you put that much trust in someone who is got a lot of the capabilities of just nuking systems, right? That's why I like systems where one entity can't just nuke them. I want it to where the community as a whole can support a system with that person being in it or not, right? And I feel like that should be a pretty good reminder to everyone, like, hey, pay attention to who is at the top of a system and do they care about you or not?
Yeah.
And if they have too much control as well.
Yeah, I think he said that he wanted to support Teddy Bear and keep that one alive. So I don't know if he's going to use some of that Atropa and pump Teddy, but I don't know. I think Teddy's got the same problem with Die. You know, unfortunately, I think B Roots too moved on past Teddy, or said he was done shilling it or something. So if he's not shilling it like that, that's a huge blow. But, you know, we'll see. If it gets down to like $1 million market cap, I might ape in.
Yeah, I personally believe a lot of the reason Teddy Bear had so much success is the one B Roots really made that his meme coin that he thought was going to win. And you have to realize there was so much connectiveness with PDI, and PDI was just winning so hard on its own. It was getting dragged up by two major forces, which did make it a serious play on Pulsechain as far as, you know, its success goes. But again, a lot of that was just still based on the speculation of PDI. And I do think users need to take this information and look at, okay, what amount of my portfolio am I speculating with? And what part of my portfolio do I want just being dependent on machines and mechanics? That is really, I think, a reality check, right? Because I think so many people at a certain point put so much of their portfolio in things that are just speculation, right? And this is the truth, is sometimes the speculation is completely false, and you can see your portfolio disappear in matters of days. That's not being said that, PTGC and UFO can't go down either. But the thing that I find very unique about them is it's transparent. We know where the value is. We know how it's generated. We know the plan. We know how much liquidity is tied with the real RH tokens, right? Millions and millions of dollars. And you can't deny those facts.
Yep, exactly.
And
I guess
imagine if the people that had so much money in these speculations, imagine if that money was actually within a system like PTGC and UFO. That wouldn't be just millions of dollars in the system for the price chart, right? The price would be at all-time highs, but that would also be millions of dollars generating revenue, making the product even better, because within the system, every person that enters into the system and just holds it, that value gets spread out amongst the web, and that value instantly gets put to work in the machine, making the machine actually run at even higher levels. And as a community, as a team, like, we can actually make our own future, right? We don't need to be dependent on this person doing this for us, this person doing that for us. We can actually put the ball in our court as a small Pulsechain community and make plenty of shots on our own. And we can actually win on our own, working together with the facts and the machines that we have in front of us right now.
Yep, 100%. I think a lot of people are going to do this.
Speculate to make tons of X's. There's enough speculation in crypto already. You don't need to speculate on a lot of other things, right? The X's with PTGC and UFO, just knowing the machine, there's hundreds of X's to be made right there, just with Pulsechain being remotely successful. You don't need to put your cards in the hands of random people who can mint tokens infinitely, right? This is both Atropa and PDI, right? Both have inflation built into the code. We don't need to trust with PTGC that someone's going to inflate the token quantity. We actually know mechanically we will wake up tomorrow and there will be less tokens. We actually know we can wake up tomorrow and there will be more PLP tokens in the liquidity web via the code. We actually can know that even if RH doesn't bring value over to this chain, we have the capability and the power to do plenty of X's just with us as a community. We don't need someone to do all the work for us.
Yep, fair point, Ron. I think this is a great time too, where people now, this was a giant wake-up call. I think for a lot of people, I see it, the amount of just cope out there. I'm getting attacked. People are freaking out for saying, you said you were holding. But yeah, I'm holding what my risk level to, but I want people to de-risk. Like, don't, whatever you're holding, I would at least trim down 75%, in my opinion. That's what I did. And when people just freak out, it's like, okay, people are coping hard. They were way over leveraged. And you just think after doing that, certain people are going to chase and try to double down, but other people are going to be like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to just go into like PTGC, go into these safer coins that this is never going to happen to me again. So I think this happened at a good time. And it's the perfect project to get into, where you just don't need to worry, where you let the mechanics and let everything built around it just do its thing and sit back, collect your rewards. And I'm excited, bro, for this thing to get up to the hundreds of millions and then hopefully the billions of dollar market cap.
Yeah, I'm excited too to just see where this journey takes us. I've always said I thought this year was going to feel like a movie on Pulsechain. The movie hasn't been going as I planned, right? There's been some crazy curveballs, that's for sure. but it's definitely been feeling like a movie.
It has for sure. So, all right, guys, is that anything else? You got Prairie Banana?
Nope. It's been a good stream. I think, I hope we delivered some value and I had a good conversation that, your viewers enjoyed. But that's the intent, really.
Yeah, definitely. I love you guys coming on, doing moon math, just showing stats. And that was I did not realize how much is taken off the market from like 6 point whatever billion to 5.1. Do you know what was that in like a 6-month period?
No, I think that was over 2 months.
Oh, wow.
No, because it'd have to go further back. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at my data, but the last time we were at this level, we could find out pretty easily on Dex Screener.
Yeah, I'm guessing probably the end of last summer.
Fall. Yeah, I think you're probably right, actually. Yeah.
So that's crazy to have. So another year from now, I mean, we have all the legislation that's going to be pro crypto. Hopefully, maybe we get no taxes. I mean, I think this is where they want to usher people into crypto. They want to go with this digital dollar thing to get people that don't care about crypto at all. They need to financially be like, I got to get in just for my own pockets. And what better way to do that than to just pump the entire market? So that's what I think is coming. I'm going to stay a perma bull.
Yeah, me too. I'm not euphoric right now, but I'm bullish, boy. Let me tell you.
Yeah. No,
we gotta wait our time.
Yeah.
And work.
Yeah. I think it's coming. I think early April, I think we're going to start to see some fireworks. Everything's just falling into place. And the on-chain data tells a different story than the mainstream.
Yep. All right, Mr. Vibra. That has been
good
fun.
Stuff. Yeah. Appreciate you there, TheGray369. Always bringing the alpha. And all 581 of you watching, smash the like button. If you don't have PTGC or UFO, what the hell are you doing? And we'll just leave it at that.